Over the last few years, we've really redesigned WSSDA in many ways, and WSSDA has become one of the largest levers in K-12, and that is a direct result of you and the work that you've done. There are 1.2 million children served by 295 school districts, and every single one of them is better now as a result of your work with WSSDA.
You know, I think one of your greatest skills really shows your character, and that's your skill at drafting amendment language. Drafting a bill, anybody can draft a bill. But to draft an amendment language, you have to truly like people. You have to understand people. You have to understand the needs. You have to be pragmatic. You have to be non-partisan in a very partisan environment. And working closely with you, Brian, on a number of bills, I saw bills ready to collapse. The one side couldn't come to an agreement with the other, and you finessed that agreement because you had worked so closely with people from both sides. You knew what really drove them from inside, and were able to come up with some language that everyone felt like, okay, we can make that work. Thinking that a quiet hero, for a hero in education, a quiet hero is seldom recognized, but their work is felt by thousands who never know what you did for them. And this is the legacy that you've built, and now with WSSDA.
I learned so much from him as we traveled in between school districts, on the road, and I loved watching him watching you, Brian, interact with the district personnel wherever we went, and your attention to the facilities issues that people were wrestling with, the needs that were obvious in some places where students were learning in substandard buildings and without adequate technological support and so forth. And of course, your commitment to continuing to help WSSDA identify and seek for the funds to address those kinds of insufficiencies. And I think your work has really helped in terms of the small schools capital funding that we've been in the last few years. And we thank you very much for that effort.
You became a really trusted advisor on all things school construction. Certainly during the McCleary case, you offered very interesting insights to us, and you kept all your connections, and everybody on staff, from Richard Ramsey and everybody else that we worked with, we were constantly in touch with you, and all of your insights were invaluable over the years. And so I just want to thank you for that. And I'd say in particular, I want to just say one more thing. You were the only person in 4 years that I've been chairing this committee that's ever actually testified on the capital bond bill. And it's a very technical thing, but I'm just appreciative of the fact that somebody actually understands that without that bill, nothing actually passes. Billions of dollars are not spent, and somebody had to acknowledge that yes, this is important. And I really appreciate the fact that you were always the only one to sign in and actually testify in favor of it, even though that's how we funded everything. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for all your good work and your public service to the state of Washington.
I pretty quickly learned that if there was ever an issue that impacted those kids that didn't quite fit in, kids on the margins, kids where the system just didn't work, you were the voice that spoke up for them. I remember when the pandemic hit and schools were closed, and our superintendents and school board members and lobbyists were all in a big flurry about how were our funding formulas going to work and how are we going to fund transportation enrollment. We were all just in a panic. You were the first person that I heard say, hey, wait a minute, when these kids come back to us, they're going to have some struggles, and they're going to have some behavioral and mental health struggles, and some of them may have not gotten all the food that they need. And you were the first one that refocused us away from just business to, okay, what we're doing is really important. And so you became, I think, part of the heart of our education lobby group.
I think he's been instrumental in the school construction funding, the fight for that. And lately in our talking with districts about what's good is going on in your districts now, since they're going through so much adversity. It's about the remodeling of their schools. They just opened a brand new school. And I like to think that he played a big role in a lot of those happening. So I just want to say congratulations and thank you so much for what all you've done for us here at WSSDA and all of the students in K-12.
Every time I walk into a room with him, I always learn something that I didn't know and didn't know that I would want to know. And so I think that's just always been a fun spot. Brian, you've made this work so enjoyable. And, you know, my first time like really getting to work with you one-on-one, I am brand new to the legislative process. I didn't know anything about anything. I just knew that I wanted to come in and make a difference. And something that I really appreciate about you is that you make everything simple. I had the most simple of questions for you about how the legislative process worked, what is school construction, what is SCAP, and not only were you able to help me find answers, but you were able to break it down in a way that made sense. I also want to say that you've always taught me to think about the long game.
It was such a natural fit. You're a brilliant mentor and navigator for our legislative committee, the WSSDA team, school directors across the state, so that we understood what our positions were and their impacts on what our positions were and how legislation could either hurt or help those positions. I loved that you were able to bring student voice into our efforts, organizing students to testify. You're pretty much the full meal deal, Sims.